Good evening, Daytona Beach, and welcome to the June 19th, 2024 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us tonight. Madam Clerk, may we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Paris.
Here.
Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner May.
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here. We'll now have the invocation, which will be led by Commissioner Reed, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Cantu. Please rise for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that's within me. Bless his holy name. Lord, once again, we come before your throne and we say thank you. Thank you for a beautiful day, and thank you for a city called Daytona Beach. Thank you for 7 individuals who have made the sacrifice of serving this city. We thank you, Lord, for the 3 that have been reelected, and we bless the one that's still striving to come back home. Lord, as we convene this evening to discuss the business of Daytona Beach, lead us, guide us, help us to keep our citizens in our forethought. Help us to also bless those who come to visit our city, and we'll be careful to give you all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise. For you, O God, are worthy. I ask this in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus. Let us all say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the May 15th, 2024 City Commission meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. At this time, we will have our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we're asking to move item 6A, the Daytona Beach Pan-Hellenic Council, to the Parks and Recreation Department presentation to the July 3rd, 2024 City Commission meeting. We're adding 8K, Police Department authorized extension number 3 to the Halifax Humane Society contract extension. Those concludes our changes.
I move that we accept the agenda with the said changes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 6, which is our presentations. Item 6B is the Public Works Department Beautification Tree Advisory Board Awards. A member of the Beautification Tree Advisory Board to report.
This is the June Residential Award. Mayor Henry, members of the City Commission, and Mr. Fiacher. My name is Terry Peters, 503 Fifth Avenue, Zone 2 member. The Beautification Tree Advisory Board has selected Mark and Alexandria Plyter, 225 North Hollywood Avenue, as the Residential Beautification Award winner for the month of June 2024. Their home was built in 1936 and is in the Seabreeze Historic District neighborhood. The home features a full basement and attic, which was renovated for a master bedroom and bath. The couple takes pride in maintaining their yard and beautification. The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for beautification include blanket flower, white fountain grass, railroad vine, bougainvillea, powder puff, bird of paradise, vinca, ground orchid, plumbago, ice plant, golden shower, and succulents, dune daisy, purple fountain grass, and potted perennials.
It's not straight.
That's better. Mark and Alexandria Plyter, Distinguished Achievement for Residential Beautification, City of Daytona Beach. Here's your certificate of achievement.
Thank you so much.
And we need to step right over here, because he's gonna take our picture.
Oh, okay. Crooked and all. Here, I'll hold it side.
Oh, it's there.
That's good, huh?
Here you go.
I'm good.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Strickland. And also, Mayor Henry, members of the City Commission, and Mr. Plyter. The Beautification Tree Advisory Board has selected Daytona Lagoon, 601 Earl Street, Daytona Beach, as the Commercial Beautification Award winner for the month of June 2024. Daytona Lagoon opened as Adventure Landing in the late 90s. The property closed and reopened as Daytona Lagoon in the early 2000s. Before the water park, this property was home to Seabreeze High School from 1916 to 1983. The plaques remain out front of the park. The water park employs over 200 employees at the peak of summer. The water park employs over 200 employees at the peak of summer, sorry. Daytona Lagoon is constantly going through updates. Last year, a sports bar, Stroud's, was opened along with an ice cream shop on the second floor of the Fun Center.
Yeah.
The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for beautification include palm trees, hibiscus, Confederate jasmine, corkscrew croton, crinum lily, firebush, Trinette schefflera shrub, and Christmas tree palm. Mayor Derek Henry will be presenting the award.
Today, there was a popular post in social media about things for teenagers to do in Daytona Beach. And certainly, one of the great things in Daytona Beach is the lagoon. And being reminded of the fact that it is the old turf of Seabreeze makes me love it even more. You guys have done a great job, and we appreciate you. This certificate of achievement reads, may it be known that this certificate has been presented to Daytona Lagoon for distinguished achievement in commercial beautification. City of Daytona Beach, Florida, signed by myself, Derek L. Henry, Mayor, and Ken Strickland, the Commissioner of Zone 2. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. And I'd also like to thank you all for supporting young people as you do with so many missions.
Moving on to item 6C, it's a presentation for the City Commission discussion on the Charter Review Commission final report. Mr. Harry Lloyd to present.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my privilege and honor to represent on behalf of the 6 zone appointees, the at-large appointees, the 7 alternates that made up the 2024 Charter Commission to present this City Commissioner's consideration our recommendations. The Charter Review is mandated in a 10-year cycle and is meant to assure that our city charter and government accurately reflect Daytona Beach in each passing decade. From our first meeting on February 19th to our interaction with residents at our town hall meetings, through the final meeting a few weeks ago, the members of the CRC diligently pursued their assignment. We discussed every single article and every single section of the charter. We read it all. I can recall one meeting that was going on for about 2.5 hours where we read through everything, and Mr. Driscoll was helping us that night. And at the end of that, it was about 8:30, and I looked at him and I said, Drew, are we going to read the 19 pages of boundary description that for the city? And he assured me that he was not going to do that we were going to move on. So we moved on. There was a lot of spirited debate, but it was always respectful. It was always with one focus in mind: can we suggest changes for the better? Under Steve Miller's chairmanship at all meetings, at Steve Miller's chairmanship at all meetings, attending alternates and residents were encouraged to speak as to having given us as many divergent viewpoints. We heard as many as possible. Many suggestions were made. All of them were considered by the commission. After all was said and done, and all the member votes were tallied, our efforts produced the recommendations you have before you tonight. We believe each one of them is worthy of being a ballot question this coming November, and we ask that you give them due consideration. The City Review Commission believes that the City of Daytona Beach is a work in progress in the pursuit of exceptionalism. It is the engine that powers all of Volusia County. This charter review process is just one way for our residents to shape our destiny and make our city better. With your permission, I'd now like to look at these with you and go over them. Article 4, Section 7 has to deal with public comments. Residents who speak at various parts of commission meetings are passionate about this city, their beliefs, and they've taken the initiative and time to voice their opinions. We recognize that it is current practice of the commission to encourage public input at various times during the commission meetings, and we believe that these individuals' opinions and ideas may one day shape future dialogue. Therefore, we recommend memorializing them into the recorded minutes of the meetings. At every term limits is Article 4, Section 8, term limits. At every town hall meeting and at the very first working meeting of the CRC, the issue of term limits was raised. It was unanimous in virtually every discussion that the time had come for term limits in Daytona Beach. What wasn't as broadly agreed to is what form the term limits should take. After much debate, the CRC recommends retaining the current 4-year term with a limitation of 2 terms per position. This provides a maximum of 8 years of service. The CRC believes this will also spawn new opportunities for citizen involvement, and will provide welcome relief for elected officials who give so much time and effort to this city. Article 4, Section 13, unexcused absences. The CRC would like to stipulate there's no abuse of the current charter's provision of 4 unexcused absences, creating a commission vacancy. However, that does not preclude that such an event may not happen someday. With that in mind, the CRC recommends reducing the unexcused absence hurdle from 4 to 2. Article 5, Section 21, primary elections. The CRC firmly believes that a primary election should not preclude a general election by declaring a victor for office from a primary event. This would mean that there would always be 2 top candidates competing in the general election. We believe that there are a divergent demographic of those voters that are in primary and then those that are come to the general. These voters are often have different criteria and they have different concerns for their candidates. Therefore, having 2 candidates, the CRC believes every election would help capture the greatest number of participants in the election process. Article 5, Section 23 deals with financial matters that come before the voters. And it has a provision in there called a freeholder. And what it says is that the only freeholders in the city of Daytona may vote on financial matters. The CRC recommends that we delete this from the charter provision that limits financial matters only to property owners. A freeholder is an identifier of a landowner that dates back to the feudal system. It's antiquated and has little or no function in 2024. As a practical matter, screening electors during an election which contains a bond provision is at the very least a daunting process for poll workers. The CRC recommends deleting the word freeholder. Articles 6, 7, and 8 deal with annual reviews. The CRC recommends that annual reviews for the city manager, the city attorney, and the city auditor be completed no later than December 31st of each year. This will provide for a consistent 12-month evaluation period, which is best for both the employer and the city. Article 8, Section 31 deals with the city auditor. The CRC recommends that the charter language, which now reads that the commissioners may appoint a city auditor, be changed to shall appoint a city auditor, who will serve at the commissioner's pleasure, and will be charged with conducting financial, fiscal, procedural, legal, and administrative office of all city departments, offices, agencies, and programs. Daytona Beach now has approximately 80,000 residents. It has a $300+ million annual budget, over a dozen departments, and employs close to 1,000 people. It is time for a city auditor, in the belief of the CRC. This would be the next step in assisting the commissioners in maintaining transparency, and that is the best physical management policies continue as the city grows. Our final recommendation is a new section. It's Article 12, and it's Section 45.1. As Daytona Beach continues to grow, environmental resources and resource protection is vital to assuring the highest quality of life and economic prosperity for its residents. Every decision made regarding future and current land use, recreation use, public spaces has a consequence for our environment. The CRC recommends the creation of an environmental advisory board. To be most effective, we recommend that this board be comprised of certified environmental professionals. The EAB would be charged with reviewing current environmental regulations, standards, and best practices, advising the City Commission on its findings and recommendations. Those are the recommendations that we suggest you consider. In closing, we'd like to thank appreciation to Deputy City Manager and Fire Chief Drew Driscoll, City Attorney Ben Grossman, City Clerk Leticia Lemanga. Without their support and assistance, I can assure you that the work of the 2024 CRC would be less successful. I thank you for your time, and on behalf of everyone in the Commission, you may contact us anytime with questions, comments. We're here to serve you. Thank you.
So at the next city commission meeting, we'll bring back an agenda item for this to get discussion from the city commission and to get direction on how you want staff to proceed. Did you have something? Okay.
So at that time, we'll go item by item and discuss how we want. Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm. And that way, staff can have direction on what kind of, because it has to be done by ordinance to put these on the ballot, so to bring back what you guys want to bring forward.
And Tish, just for the commission's benefit, can you tell us when any ballot proposals would need to be forwarded to the supervisor of elections to be on the
general election in November? The ballot initiatives have to be sent to the supervisor of elections by August 20th. So this allows us to have time to bring it forward and then have 2 readings of an ordinance.
Anything else? And if you have something that you would like to bring as an ordinance yourself, bring it for discussion. Didn't preclude us from discussing it during commission comments tonight. It does not, if you have something that you want to bring as a commissioner for us to discuss or add to this list, you can feel free to do that also. It can be added to what they've mentioned. And it doesn't preclude us from discussing any item tonight during our comments either.
At the end of the evening.
At the end of the meeting. Yeah. All right.
Okay. So we're going to move on to item number 7, which is our citizen comments. And during this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. Our first speaker is Frederick Brown.
Frederick Brown, 59 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. Never is there a better reminder of what we need to do in the city in the future. And as you just heard on the recommendations of the CRC, we need to do something about the environment. We are frontline. We are most affected. Item 8A reminds us how much we're spending in fuel. And I know I've spoken here many, many times about some of the advantages we have to where we could use wind and solar here to reduce that by a considerable amount. Now is the time to start thinking about that. Now, I realize you're going to just approve today's amount for the $625,000, the other amounts listed as well, but you really should keep this in the forefront. This isn't an investment, this is money burned. This is money that also adds to our problems with the environment that Daytona is greatly affected by. Moving forward to item 8G, I'm glad to see that some of the monies are being spent on Lennox Park. I know some of the improvements have been made, but it needs a lot more, and I'm glad to see that. So I'm glad to see that's in the agenda. Moving on to item 8H, once again, this is an opportunity missed, and you're going to go ahead and approve buying more generators, but there are other methods. We can use solar and we can use power wall storage, which is instantaneous, doesn't require the fuel, is completely environmentally friendly. And we do have the areas where we can gather the solar. Sadly, once again, we're continuing to move forward in a backwards direction. Again, I just remind the commission, even though you're going to approve this unanimously, keep it in your mind that this is money burned, not invested. Thank you.
And I believe that was my only speaker on the consent agenda. We didn't have-
Really? Okay. All right. All those items. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu. Do we have any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, let it be denoted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
We're going to move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings and quasi-judicial hearings. Item 9A is the Growth Management Planning Department First Amendment to West Speedway Town Center PD. This is an ordinance on second reading, quasi-judicial hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 11.4 plus or minus acres of property generally located along West International Speedway Boulevard between Grand Champion Boulevard and LPGA Boulevard from PDG Plan Development General to PDG Plan Development General. Approving the First Amendment to the West Speedway Town Center Plan District Agreement to add the rezoned property to the Plan District and to clarify permitted multifamily development and sign criteria within the Plan District. Authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the First Amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion. We have a second.
And I do have Mr. Rob Merrill here on behalf of the applicant for any questions.
Okay, no comments?
And no other speakers, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item 9B, it's a Growth Management Planning Department, NASCAR Speed Park PDG rezoning. This is an ordinance on second reading, quasi-judicial hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 5.1 plus or minus acres of property located at 201 Fentress Boulevard from PDG Plan Development General to PDG Plan Development General, approving the NASCAR Speed Park Redevelopment Plan District Agreement to allow for additional mixed uses with modified development criteria, including a variable parking field with parking and temporary uses, subject to certain conditions, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion from Commissioner Reed, second from Commissioner Cantu.
Okay. I do have speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Evelyn Rodriguez.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. In essence, I don't oppose this, but I have questions on it. We are moving those lost properties south of the Speedway north. So they're going to be parking trailers and things of that nature on this lot. Secondly, they have a building with the bathrooms. They're going to tear it down and it will have no bathrooms. So they may or may not have people spending the night there, living in a trailer, and no facilities. Third, there is a huge section, well, not huge, a larger section of trees on the west side of the property. They're going to apparently bulldoze a section of it in order to create a larger drainage area. If you go to screen the adjoining properties, you really don't want to take away the trees that screen it. So we do this all the time, especially in the new development. The first thing we'll do is we'll bulldoze all the trees. The first thing you want to keep is the trees to protect the neighbors, especially drainage. And I know this is a big thing that pops up all the time, is drainage. These trees suck up an awful lot of water. What's going to happen to the neighbors if we keep and continuously pull up all of our trees? So the one major thing here I'm asking you is to look into the trees. Do they need to take out all of those trees? I know they're going to save some, but I'm asking you to consider saving all of them, especially considering the water issues that almost everybody now is having, because I found out the 2 streets behind my house on the highest dune on the beach side, the 2 streets behind me, Wildwood and Oleander, they both flood. They had over 1.5 feet of water 2 weeks ago when we had that heavy rain. So it's all over the place, so I ask you to consider it. It's something that we didn't consider in the past, but I think we need to consider in the future. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ellen Rodriguez.
Evelyn Rodriguez, Molly Road, Daytona Beach. I happened to be at the planning board meeting where this item was addressed. And one of the things that the memo doesn't state, does substantiating, this item was denied actually initially. The planning board denied it. They're going to have vehicles. Yes, they are going to have vehicles that people are going to stay in for 20 days. They're going to have generators making noise. And what I want you guys to consider is, first of all, the planning board, you know, they do a lot of work trying to figure this out. And they denied it first, but Mr. Merrill asked them to reconsider it. They originally wanted the 90 days from the beginning, but after they reconsidered, they accepted the 40 days. Now, 40 days in a year is still 10 days over what the LDC allows. Okay, and then, so now they're going back to 90 days after they told the planning board that they would take the 40 days. I think that's a consideration that you guys should really look at. Plus, you see in the second, top of the second page of the supporting memo, they're banking on this 21 days, it says may be waived once per year by the city manager. So I really think that you guys should respect the planning board's decision and the integrity of the planning board when you make a decision on this item. Thank you.
Okay. And then I do have Mr. Rob Moore here on behalf of the applicant for any questions.
Well, I was going to stay in my seat, but I thought I should respond to a couple of these. Rob Merrill for the record, 1 Daytona Boulevard. You know, John, a couple of things that John said were statements, not questions, I think, but he asked about tree removal, and that was something that came up, and I think Evelyn was talking about one of the conditions the planning board placed on it, which also included tree preservation and abiding by the land development code with respect to tree removal. We are going to do that. The buffered area that's existing now will remain. So I think we satisfied everything that the planning board wanted of us, other than the time frame for the RV parking, which we originally wanted it to be unlimited. and they said 40 days, and we said, how about 90 days? So that's what's in front of you guys. Listen, the biggest economic engine in our community is right across the street from this piece of property, and we're trying to make it a year-round events, and we've been successful with things like Rockville and other things that are happening, and there's a need for this. So I think we've been doing it responsibly on other properties, and I think you guys have not had any problems with relationship to what the Speedway does. If you have questions specifically about anything that Evelyn or John brought up beyond that, I'm happy to try to answer that for you, but with that, I'll let you guys tell me what you need.
Did planning board deny it?
They originally denied it because a couple of the members had some concerns that had to do with the trees and some other things, and then we came back and we started over again, essentially. Oh. And we I think we all came to terms, and I think it was unanimous. And those two things that I just mentioned were the only things that ended up coming out of the meeting that they were looking for, and I think we're satisfying them. Other than that, the difference between the days, the number of days, you guys know that we're doing a lot out there year round now. So
yeah, I agree.
We originally said more. We wanted just not to have a limitation, but we're saying 90 days, and we think we can live with that. So hopefully that works.
I absolutely agree. You need parking, because I went over there during Rockville, and some of the plazas, you couldn't even park to go to the restaurants. Target, they had to put portables out there. You definitely need parking. So
Yeah, and
I'm in favor, and I don't see where there's a lot of neighbors this is going to bother anyone.
It's true, and so one of the things is this is an industrial area. You guys know Long Fentress behind there, and so that we didn't have anybody come out when we had our neighborhood meeting saying that they were worried about noise or anything. And ultimately, the RV parking that's happening there is not with facilities, so it's not an RV park or RV campground. The planning board, some of the members were asking about that too. That's just not the intent. I think you guys know how this works. Those are folks that are coming here for an event. So it's a little different than an RV park.
They have their own restrooms. It's an RV.
It's an RV.
Right.
Their own traveling mobile restroom.
But what they don't have is plumbing and electrical
Right,
facilities.
so it's in their own vehicle.
Yes.
Can you explain from 40 days to 90 days, will somebody be parked there for 3 months for one event?
So that's a total for the entire year. For the entire year. And it has to be no more than 21 days with a 7-day in between.
So,
Which will likely be much less than that, Monica. But those are just sort of outside parameters we wanted to give to it, just in case the events get bigger.
so somebody comes for a week, let's say. They come to an event, they stay for a week, they enjoy Daytona Beach.
Right.
And then that person gets tallied each time. So they total land use at your property. that's up
Anytime
to-
there's anybody there, it's a day.
That's your, okay,
Yeah, 100%.
okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks, guys.
We have a motion and a second.
We do have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
All right, we have that. We have, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 9C. It's a Growth Management and Planning Department, outdoor seating, sidewalk cafes. This is an LDC text amendment. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending Article 5 and Article 6 of the Lands of Illinois Code to modify standards and conditions for outdoor seating areas at eating and drinking establishments and their use of public sidewalk space, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Reed.
And I don't have any speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Discussion?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions. So I received I had some conversation with some merchants, and they wanted me to bring something to our attention. The question was the potential raise in insurance that they would have to cover with regard to this. Am I at the right one? Sidewalk cafes, right? You look confused. I'm sorry. Okay. It was the raise. They would have to increase their insurance because they are renting the extra space on the sidewalk. Could you just go over why that's necessary for them to get the insurance?
Sure.
And exclude the city of Daytona Beach, please?
Sure. And one thing I want to make clear of for all the commissioners, because there have been other questions about this, This, in many ways, is a housekeeping item. It's intended to make a program that's already in place that allows sidewalk cafe licenses easier to obtain. Now, part of the reason for that is the redevelopment is going to be coming forward with a program, at least in redevelopment areas, to help create some fence or barrier standards to help with the aesthetic design of redevelopment areas. The changes include allowing people to put up a fence or wall, not a 6 or 8 foot fence, but it'd have to be something that the city would approve, to sort of provide boundaries for the area. Right now, licenses have to be renewed annually, and sometimes there's a lapse in people renewing those. They have to be renewed with the BTR, and that doesn't always happen. And so we're making these changes. The license would continue until terminated.
Okay.
And people could put some kind of fencing up, if consistent with the city standard, to make it easier and more convenient for people to obtain these licenses. There's already language in the Land Development Code that requires people to indemnify the city and provide insurance because they're occupying right-of-way, sidewalk. If there's a trip and fall on a sidewalk, never mind that it's going to be in an area with tables and chairs belonging to a restaurant owner, the city will be pulled into a lawsuit over that. And so we would recommend that that not be waived under any circumstances. And in fact, aside from these sidewalk cafe licenses, which the code authorizes staff to approve, there's a more generic provision in the Land Development Code that requires you to approve other encroachments, and it's a condition of approval that insurance and indemnification be provided when you're approving encroachments for the same reason.
Okay. So anytime that you expand a boundary, you're going to have to get the insurance. There's no way really around that to protect us.
And there's really nothing in this ordinance that would expand the boundaries of sidewalk cafe licenses. We did make some changes. For example, in the Land Development Code right now, there's a requirement that 5 feet of sidewalk, I think it is, be maintained for pedestrian flow. That's based on an ADA standard, Americans with Disabilities Act. We're just changing it to say ADA standard. So.
And this only goes for people who have a restaurant or providing food or a drink of some sort, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And will code be looking at this? So, for example, will code be checking to see if people, let's say, don't have a license? Okay, so I mean, I can kind of see where we're having some sort of designated area. You can kind of tell who's compliant and who's not because they have some sort of barrier up of some sort. So that
Sure.
code can be more involved, because right now I'm not sure that we're doing that.
Well, I mean, if somebody, say, visits a restaurant or an ice cream shop and then hangs out outside the shop in front, and there's no tables or chairs there, and there's nothing that's placed there by the restaurant or ice cream shop owner that purports to make that part of the sidewalk their space, that's not a code violation on the part of the restaurant or sidewalk owner. But if they put tables and chairs out without a license, then or serve people out there, that would be a violation.
To insurance, trip and fall, accidents, which protects all the residents. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any other questions or concerns? Discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item 9D, it's the Public Works Department approval of preliminary and final plat for Phase 2 of Oasis subdivision. This is a resolution public hearing. A resolution approving the preliminary and final plat for the Oasis Phase 2 subdivision on 34.79 plus or minus acres generally located on the east side of Williamson, north of Mason, and south of Cornerstone Boulevard, authorizing the city manager to sign the final plat and permit recordation thereupon meeting certain conditions precedent and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Henry and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
And I do have Jessica Gao here on behalf of the applicant for any questions.
No questions of Ms. Gao? Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 11, since we don't have any introduction of ordinances. Item number 11 is our administrative items. Item 11A is the Police Department Axon Enterprise, Inc. Agreement Approval Resolution. A resolution approving the extension of an agreement between the city and Axon Enterprise, Inc. as the sole source provider of body cams, tasers, and associated software licenses for the city police department for a 5-year term commencing October 1st, 2024, and ending September 30th, 2029, at a total cost during the extension period of $5,770,350.74. Authorizing the expenditure up to $635,892 for fiscal year 2024 and up to $1,057,458.50 for fiscal year 2025. Authorizing the city manager to expend such amounts for each additional years of service, subject to budgeting and appropriations. Authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute any documents necessary to give effect to this resolution and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu.
And I have no speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
We have no speakers. Okay. All right, all those in favor, unless we have commission questions. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion also carries 7-0.
Okay. And that was our last agenda item before the commission comments. And
All right, we'll move to commission comments, which commences with Commissioner Cantu.
I have a few questions, and I've already notified Mr. Fiecher regarding, I've been having problems on the west side for probably going on 4 years, and it's parking issues. And the parking issues is because, let's say a family has two, husband and wife, 2 vehicles. Okay, we've all been there, most of us who have kids with teenagers. At one time, I actually had 5 teenagers driving at one time. Okay, actually, I take that back, 4, because my oldest, he had girls driving him all around. So it's 4. Okay, so the problem I'm having, I know the police really don't have better, they need to be doing other things than out there giving parking tickets. And I get a lot of complaints of homeowners calling me because, just for instance, I just had a pilot call me from Bayberry. I spent an hour on the phone. His wife and him have a vehicle. They have a motorcycle in the garage, and let's say most garages now are storages. I mean, they're not really garages for our vehicles. And they had 2 daughters here from spring break. Well, they got a ticket because they were parked on the side of the road. And most all of the communities out there, let's say Bayberry, Mosaic, Preserve at LPGA, you cannot park your vehicle in the road without getting a ticket. There's no designated parking areas for these residents. Some of these homes are 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom homes. I mean, we need to do something with any development that's coming forward. We need to start looking at the size of those driveways and the size of those streets. I know most of the development has already been approved out there, but eventually we're gonna have Avalon coming, and something has to be done. And in the meantime, I have talked to Fiecher, and he's gonna get with staff, Mr. Fiecher, because I need a solution for these people out there about parking. I mean, what is it, Christmas Eve? We had a whole bunch of residents get citations because they had a Christmas Eve party. A birthday party, they get citations. Now, the HOA is the one that calls them in. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't get the citations. But I think we have to do something for these residents, because we know if you have kids, you're going to have more than 2 cars. So if we can look at that, and then in future development, coming forward.
For the future development, but, yeah, okay. And there's really not a solution. This has been a problem way before now. I mean, ever since before I got up here. We
Right.
always had problems in Hoon Holly and, Tuscany and all those areas, with this, so, but staff is working on it.
Yes, staff is, myself and Ben and Dennis and even Drew, dealing with the fire department, we've been talking about it, how we change it and make it.
And then any future development, we need to really start looking at that closely, because, I mean, those are two of my one of my main complaints I get from the residents is parking and cell phone connection.
Because if the street is wide enough, they can park on the street.
Well,
what you're
those streets,
suggesting?
correct, those streets are not, I think it's like
No, they're not.
an 8-foot width clearance that needs to be, and we don't have that. Because the developers are trying to push so many houses, and those driveways, I mean, are just so small as well. You're lucky to fit 2 cars in a driveway. So, and then some of those driveways are so small, you have a truck that kind of is out on the sidewalk, you're gonna get a citation for that. Bayberry, there's a lot of deputies that live in there. They get complaints about their deputy cars out there in front of there. We need to look for some kind of solution for what's happening now, and then a solution in the future where this is not happening anymore. So,
Okay.
and they are looking. Another thing, I know we've all received these emails from the Peabody. And I know I received an email from VHO, this is negotiation, don't talk, but I talked to these people the day before. And we've always, when we have something coming before us, we've always said, how many jobs is this gonna bring in? How many jobs, for our residents? Well, this is a local company, far as I can see, has been doing a great job. They work for the Ocean Center for the county. They work for Holly Hill, Pictonia. I think that's how you say it. And they're a minority company, a small business. They live here in Volusia County. Why would we go outside of Volusia County to hire someone that lives in Orlando for services? I mean, because that money, they're gonna take that money and go back to Orlando with that money. I mean, we wanna boost our local economy and invest in our community. Unless they are doing something wrong that I don't know about, but everybody I've talked to says they're doing great. I know on Father's Day, the Ocean Center I watched the county meeting yesterday, 6,900 residents. And I guess everything went smoothly at the Ocean Center on Father's Day. So I just don't understand why we would go outside and hire someone nationally, security nationally, and from Orlando, instead of keeping it local. And I know the elected body here is one that should make the final decision what we do. So,
And we will, because it'll be, but the issue I think that you're bringing up is that you want staff to consider this, and do we have a mechanism for this in place? We've discussed this in years past, and I know that we do have a mechanism in place to support local businesses.
If I can, Mayor, my understanding is that the contract with the current provider, which was, I think, an annual contract, ended. There was an option on the city's part to renew the contract for the same fee, subject to the vendor's ability to request an increase of up to 5% or the CPI increase, whichever's less. The vendor declined to renew the contract, but has agreed to stay on temporarily while the city tries to procure another vendor. In order for staff to procure another vendor, staff has to comply with the purchasing code. The purchasing code requires either competitive bids or competitive proposals. There are currently competitive proposals under review, and the way that works is proposals are presented to the selection committee of staff, which makes recommendations, which go to the manager. The manager doesn't have to accept those recommendations and can negotiate with all of the shortlisted vendors. And then the manager can present a proposal for you to accept or reject. You also are not bound by the manager's approval or rejection. And my understanding of that RFP process is that is currently in process right now. So there's no decision that's been made. There can't be one made unless and until you make one.
Okay, with all the emails, why are they saying they've lost their contract completely?
I think they're incorrect.
Because
They
they
are correct.
refused to re-sign it based on.
Okay, because that's not what all the emails have said, so thank you for clearing that up.
The other thing I want to point out, as you probably recall, because you asked the prior city attorney to review this question before, we don't currently, and we're not able to legally give preferences to minority or women-owned businesses under established case law. We would have to have studies showing disparity over a period of years, and we don't have that. What we do, though, is we have a local preference built into the code that's mandatory for consideration on bids and optional for consideration on RFPs. You have to meet the definition of a local business to get that preference. You also have to claim it when you submit your proposal, or you've waived that right to a local preference. So first off, again, my understanding is there was no local preference claimed by the vendor when they submitted.
Because they're not a local.
And secondly, they're not actually a local business in the way that our code refers to the local business. It may be that a lot of their employees are local, and my understanding that's the case, but that wouldn't qualify them as a local business
So
under our preference.
Are you saying BBT is not a local business?
According to our procurement department, which always reviews those items, yes,
What they
they're not.
submitted, they did not say they were a local.
Okay, because all of our emails have said that.
I think those are
Okay,
the employees.
So where are they out of?
I think it's St. Augustine,
Or Sarasota.
Sarasota.
And so,
St. Augustine.
and is all their employees local here?
We don't,
We don't know.
we don't check
Okay.
their employees.
Okay, because their employees, all the emails that we've received say they're local, so that's.
Sure.
why I'm-
But let me say that it's almost, I can't imagine there's a case where this wouldn't be one of the criteria. One of the criteria to consider in an RFP is the experience of the vendor. And certainly a vendor's local experience with the city is part of what should be considered. And it's fair and reasonable to consider our own experience with the vendor to be of even more value than the reported experience that we gather from getting references. So that's commonly considered as something that you'll be able to consider when and if you're presented with a request to approve a procurement contract.
Okay, and has there been any wrongdoing since they've been contracted with us?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. I will just say that the two proposals that the staff from procurement is submitting to my office, both of them actually do perform services here in Daytona Beach. Both of the top two bidders.
And the company from Orlando, what services do they?
I think they're at the Speedway and One Daytona as well.
Speedway and
providing-
One Daytona?
Yes, providing security services.
Okay. And are their employees local?
We don't know if the employees are local for both entities. That's not something that we're required to check. But I would assume that they probably get also security personnel to perform services for NASCAR as well as One Daytona. But we don't check to see if every employee is from this area. And that's why we go through the negotiation process. And I started receiving those emails. That's why I communicated back. It would be prudent to just go through the process because I have not received all of the documents from the committee that ranked them to make a recommendation to you all to select the service.
And who's the committee?
It's a group of 6 or 7 individuals. I don't know all of their names from the procurement groups. I know that people from the Peabody also sit on the board to review these proposals as well. Holly, Michael Stallworth, I think David Waller was on it. I can't remember the other individuals, but they're. and CJ and Chad Smith from the Peabody,
Okay.
who also make rankings for those individuals, and we'll bring that information
And
back.
the
to you all.
rankings, was it close or was
I
it?
haven't received all that information, but it will be provided to you
Okay.
all. Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And again, if I can, Commissioner, you're not bound by those rankings or those recommendations when you
Right.
make your decision.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry, may I interject along those
Yes.
lines? So I understand you to say that we had an agreement that they could do an increase up to 5%. They went above that, and that's why we're considering the RFP and going out?
Well, I think staff was aware that notwithstanding the clause in that contract, that due to inflationary considerations, that could be a tough sled. So rather than mandating a renewal, staff asked them to renew, and they reported back that they couldn't renew at the prices in the current contract. So they weren't technically required to renew. They're not in breach of the contract because of the way that they were approached by staff. My understanding also is that the prices that have been submitted by all of the proposers are roughly in line with one another, including the current providers' prices. And that's something that's negotiated in the RFP process as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The last thing I have is on June 29th, we're having a Freedom Festival at the the Manatee Island. This is going to take the place of the 4th of July parade that we have every year. We will have the Veterans Ceremony that starts at 10 a.m. We will have games, the brewery out there, a cornhole tournament, $20 for the entry fee, 50% of the proceeds will be donated to a local veteran charity. We will have live music, food, water slide, face painting, and it goes on. So I hope to see a lot of people out there. And that's about it.
No comments tonight. Good night.
Oh, I do. I do have one other thing. I just would like to say thank you to the residents of Daytona and my Zone 4 residents. I was reelected without an opponent, so you guys have stuck with me another 4 years. Thank you.
Yes, sir. First of all, I just want to say that I was proud to be a part of the program for the Charters of Freedom. They're absolutely beautiful on Beach Street. You should go and see them. And we're honored as a city to host those documents, and you really should take advantage of that. Midtown concert went on Saturday night. The band was great, had a great turnout. I line danced for a while and just had a good time with the citizens that were there. Thanks to Parks and Recs for continuing to support that. And then I did have a question. I know that we approved the extension for Habitat for Humanity. You know, I love my pets, love my Weston. But my question is about TNR, the trap, neuter, and return. Is that a part of that contract, or that's something separate? We need to go back? Yes, Ben?
So the annual service agreement with the Humane Society does address trap, neuter, and I don't know if it's return or release, but there's not a lot of meat on the bone in the contract about that. There is a separate contract that goes hand in hand with that contract. It's an MOU between the city, Halifax Humane Society, and the Concerned Citizens for Animal Welfare, I think the CCFAW. And that apparently has been renewed most recently through the end of this fiscal year. I think there may have been some confusion in the public because when there was communication going back and forth between our department and the police department regarding the renewal of the annual agreement, we were unable to locate a written renewal of the MOU. But apparently it has been renewed informally. So I think there was a line in an email that seemed to read that there was no current written agreement.
That's correct.
Or MOU, but it just had been informally extended as opposed to extended in writing the way that would usually be done.
Is this something we extend annually?
Well, I think recently it was extended at a staff level. I don't know what the cost is, but I think it's $25,000 or less, so it's within the manager's authority. But the TNR program, I think, was first created 9 or 10 years ago, and traditionally, the city would get breaks on rates for certain services for having the TNR program in place. And I think that would still be reflected in the new annual contract that will be coming forward. But I don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say the new annual contract, you're referring to our new fiscal year?
Yes,
The
so
intention is just keep
we've
what we have now.
right.
And then with the new fiscal year, we're
Right.
saying that, okay.
Yeah, all of the cities in the county pretty much enter into the same agreement with the Halifax Humane Society. The rates are negotiated by the jurisdictions as a group, and that agreement is close to being final. It just couldn't be finalized by this meeting.
Okay. I've utilized that. My neighbor was feeding 15 cats and raccoons before she passed. She was 96 years old. So her son and I started feeding the 3 that remained. Now I feed 6 cats. Weston's mine. I think I'm theirs. So that's good to hear because I've utilized it. I had each of the cats neutered or spayed. They came and got them and returned them, and I feed them. All right.
But I will tell you factually, I don't know if that MOU is slated for renewal
Would you
at
check
the beginning of
into
the
that
fiscal
for me,
year.
please?
Well, as of right now, it would be a staff decision, and I don't know what staff's decision is on that. I know that you're currently going through budgeting, Mr. Fiacher.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right. I hope Chief and his staff consider renewing that. Can you hear me? All right. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. We had several festivities this past weekend, from the 5K at the promenade, the parade, the festival, and last evening we celebrated at the banquet. So thank you, Daytona Beach, for recognizing 1865. That concludes my comments.
Well, we had some exciting news that Boeing's coming to Daytona, so we're going to have 400 high-paying jobs I'm very excited about. I wanted to ask the commission if you would be okay with us directing staff to piggyback off of that and have our economic development look into bringing other entities that can help with the jobs that Boeing's bringing in.
I'm sure they're engaged in that, I hope.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yes.
So when can we see something, like a presentation? Can they do something like that?
In regards to,
A plan, a strategic plan on who we're going to bring in, economic development.
yeah. Yeah, we have a plan of who we go, there's a plan of who we go after, who we recruit, working with Team Volusia, working with the county, and working with the chamber. But there's no certain thing where we say we're going out and talk to Boeing because they don't want us to give their names or a different company, but there's a strategic plan in place, what type of industries as a city that we go after.
So can we see something?
Oh, yeah, I think it may be
Okay.
some things even on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
I want to talk about Commissioner Reed's zone a little bit. Anybody that has not been to Daisy Stocking needs to go check it out. That is a beautiful facility. They have great entertainment over there, and I think it's what we have there, 65, 70 people last weekend. There's plenty of room for others, and there's plenty of fun to be had there. The entertainment is wonderful, and they have sponsors that are there. The have Humana, United Healthcare, Vitamin Shop, the City of Daytona Beach. We need to get our community motivated to come out and support that. It's something that is really nice and a lot of fun.
It's the band shell on the mainland.
That's correct. That's correct. And I tell you that our band shell over on the beach side is really nice. It's the essence of old Daytona, but that's new modern stuff over there. It's really nice. So y'all come out for that. And I attended Juneteenth last night also. That was a wonderful event. You know, it was well attended, and the entertainment. Those guys on those stilts. I'll tell you what. That's the eighth wonder of the world. I don't know how they do that with all those people and not fall over. But anyway, that concludes my comments.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner May.
So a few weeks ago, you kindly agreed to support a donation I made for the Filipino American Association, and they were in Daytona Beach. We have a large Filipino American Association that resides in Daytona Beach. They come from Jacksonville, Kissimmee, Tampa. They have different dance groups and events. So in my mind's eye, in the future, I would love to see, I've always wanted to try this downtown, an international event. Now, I know St. Paul's does something. I know St. Paul's is International Day. And I know that the Greek Church has one, but I've always imagined a day where we have maybe, I don't know, different cultural groups come out. They have teenagers, they have young kids, and they perform, or we have adults who perform in costume. Jacksonville has an event like this. It brings in about 75,000 people. I'm not looking for 75,000. I start smaller. So we're starting at the Cherry Center. So I actually have video footage to kind of let you know. I want you to understand that all of this was done. We gave $2,000. They created their own funding for this. They provide all the food and all the entertainment from about 11 a.m. until about 3 a.m. But the food is $10. So it's $10. That's your price of admission, and you get to stay the entire time. It's a fantastic family affair. For $10, it's really amazing that they can do it. So when we gave them that funds, they rented the Cherry Center, which then gets brought right back into the city. So it stayed with us the entire time. So if we could please roll some of that footage, that would be great. This is the national anthem. All the music is live. And it's about a 3-minute concept. Ooh. And they're celebrating Philippine Independence Day. Philippine Independence Day. Last year we gave them a resolution honoring that day, and so they're continuing. Say again? They did. Yeah. What I find amazing is they love doing cabaret entertainment, so all the songs were live. They sang their own music. It was great. So they laid down a dance floor. And each of the areas of the Philippines is represented with the cultural dance, cultural song, history, and demonstrations. And they absolutely love to dance. They also won our Christmas parade last year, by the way. So I would absolutely love the downtown at some point in the future to do some sort of cultural something where we bring in different dance groups. We have lots of different cultural communities in our community here in our area, Daytona Beach, and I would love to have them come out and perform, just show us what they're doing in their communities. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. The ARPA funds are well at use in the Charters of Freedom, and that was a great presentation, and I just believe it is a great addition to our community. A great addition for a number of reasons: education, pride in our country, and also it is, in my opinion, an aspirational agenda. When you put the Declaration of Independence in any space, as important as it was, and when you think about the Constitution, while the Constitution is a living document, and certainly the Bill of Rights, they're always challenged. So we have every day is a new day to try to make sure that those rights are being supported. But the Declaration, I think, is an aspiration in that we aspire to be a better and a greater country. And so those documents, they're just beautiful. And I was blown away. I knew it would be nice, but I walked away proud. Really proud of our city for being the first in Florida to host those in that fashion. Boeing, that was a great announcement. It's really what we aim for, and I don't think it was noted that the land that the property is going on is the land that we approved to give to Embry-Riddle. I recall the manager and I meeting with some folks there, but we didn't know when we did that we would get this. We knew what the agenda was in terms of the building, but we didn't know that we would get Boeing, but that was certainly the hope. But the bigger thing is, and this is humongous, is though that when you get one, if you do well with one, you can attract others. And that's our objective. As we aspire to be good in all areas as a community, those are the types of jobs that we want to attract, but we'd like to get another. Is that right? I think that's what I heard you say, right? So we have to continue to do things that make ourselves attractive. And what I mean by that is we partnered with Embry-Riddle, and we have to partner with others. And so sometimes you have to give some things, and you don't always know up front what's going to come of that or become of it. And so certainly this is one that I will not ever forget in the rest of my life. And so we often talk about something as big, that's such. Juneteenth was amazing, and I share the sentiments of everyone. And it should be of note that how much money did we give to Juneteenth? Is it 30,000?
10 or 15, is it?
15,
and then other countries get
15,
about 25 or 30.
Okay. 14 was 30 one time. Okay.
It was 10 and then it was raised to 14.
14?
Dude, that's so odd.
So it was never, I don't know where I get that number from.
Because it was 10 and then it got raised.
No, we gave more money than that one time. That was when the other manager was there. But that's enough.
But other commissioners
Have given.
give money too.
Yeah. But my point is, we got the best festival in the state. And as a community, if we're giving, as a city, 15,000 plus other commissioners, I think that's a good deal.
I think so too.
I think it's a good deal because we want our community to have experiences and to experience one another. One of the things I like about that was I saw some African American people in there. And ultimately, we want to be, this community where we embrace one another. And when I saw it, I'm like, I hope next year I want to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to go. I want to be there because that's the world that I want to live in. is a world where we embrace one another, we get to know one another, and you can't care about that which you don't know. It's very difficult, at least. And so I like to know folks, and I like to be known. I think our Juneteenth, we should be proud of having the best. And then the historic Abbey house was rededicated, and it is beautiful. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we're aware.
Okay. All right. The Abbey, they did an amazing job with that house, which is an important house from our city's history. And so that concludes my remarks, Mr. Manager.
Yes, just real quick, congratulations to the mayor, Commissioner Reed and Commissioner Cantu on your re-elections to the commission. Also, I wanted to say for Mr. Brown that I don't know if he's been in our parking lot. We continue to move forward towards being a environmentally minded community. We have 2 charging stations for electric vehicles that are within the parking lot here at City Hall that I would encourage people to use in our area as we continue to expand them throughout our communities. And that concludes my report.
No comment, thank you.
Come on
wait.
up.
We have one thing, Mr. Mayor. I need to bring up, come on, Mr. Thomas, I see him coming up. Thanks to Letitia, she told me about the request for us asking for support from Madison Cove, and if not, Jessica Gow would have stood up. But you want to come up too, Jessica?
Ken Thomas redevelopment. Madison Cove was a project that came before us last year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They didn't get selected last year, but they're going to try this year, and their chances are a whole lot better this year because we're recommitting, or hopefully recommitting, our support for this 55-plus unit senior housing complex, which would be an improvement to the area for seniors in this community. And we have Jessica Gow here who would speak on behalf of the applicant.
So just to frame this for the commission, they're requesting funds which helps their score in their competitive application with Florida Housing Finance Corporation for low-income housing tax credits.
Yeah. And based off the information we have received, that because we have been a supporter in the past, that they have a better chance of getting access to these funds. This property is off of the Blue Road, Beach Street area, adjacent to it's almost a mobile home park. I know many of you have seen it. This will, I think, help if they get it to improve the aesthetics of that community as well. And that's why the redevelopment team decided to ask for your support on this.
Well, there's still mobile homes on the parcel?
Adjacent.
Not on this parcel, adjacent to it.
Adjacent, yes. As well.
And for the record, Jessica Gallo, Law Firm, 1 Daytona Boulevard. You guys have seen this project before. It's the exact same. I think it highlights, when we go through affordable housing master planning, we look at how can you do it without the competitive tax credits, but those projects are still important. And we've seen over the years the re-request, and we talk about in master planning, if we can commit to supporting a project for multiple years, it increases their chances of being selected because the applicants know they will have to apply more than once to get those competitive tax credits. The commission itself, the Fair Housing Finance Commission, has actually delegated now. It used to be if you got local government support, you get a step above. Now it's if you get local government support multiple years, you get another step above that. And so they're recognizing that process as well. It's a really exciting project. All of the units are at that 60% AMI level, and then 10% are at 40% AMI. And so I know we talk about affordable housing a lot. We're at the 120% workforce housing. This is senior restricted at the 60% or below. So really that targeted need.
So what do we need to do? We need to sign back up, right?
Yeah. If that's for you all to do, then we'll get a letter.
Yeah, let's get signed up.
Okay.
Well, just to be clear, to help with the motion, what's the ask in terms of the financial commitment?
It is a loan of $460,000, the same loan
thing
terms as
before.
before at 1% interest.
Yeah,
Right.
same thing before.
And we wouldn't actually have to sign the loan agreement unless and until
We're selected.
if they get their loan funding from their tax credits, excuse me.
Yeah, one day we're gonna win. Sign up.
I agree.
One day.
So how should the motion be stated?
they'll bring it back.
Do you need it tonight, or is this something can come back for next meeting?
I think the intent was action tonight, if possible. We have the form that we'll be submitting prior to their deadline.
Would it be sufficient for your client's sake for the motion to be to recommit for this tax credit review cycle to providing this a loan to your client under the same terms and conditions as approved last year?
Absolutely. And if we want to clarify, providing authorization for the city manager to provide the local government verificational contribution loan form.
Right.
That's the key.
So move what Ben and Jessica said.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, and we have a great decision. We do need to take comments. Do we have any comments on this?
I don't have any backup information on any of this. I've never heard about it, so.
You didn't get backup information because it's,
I know, but if I'm gonna vote on something, I want backup information.
yep, yep.
Do we have any citizens?
Any citizens?
I'm sorry,
wanna
any
comment?
citizens that want to comment on this item?
I think it was 2 years ago.
I think what's really good about this project is the fact that we have many people over the age of 55 who are staying put in their homes when they could be moving into a facility that's brand new that they can actually afford within their income. And maybe it opens up some housing opportunities where they're transitioning from one housing space into another housing space. Because we don't have that, people are staying in place, which is fascinating because for multiple years, what were we saying? Please age in place. That's what we were saying at one time, and now it's changed. Right? It's interesting.
I'm sorry, Jessica, can you explain to Commissioner Harris how any they picked?
Sure. Yeah, and
Just, can you start off again with the loan terms that would apply if you're awarded the tax credits, what the city's loan to your client would be?
yes, and this was in the agenda backup. It was an agenda item on there, so it had the layout in there. The request is, we have an applicant who is providing.
There was nothing in the agenda packet.
There was not a backup on it.
There was no backup.
There wasn't, oh, in the printed, got it, gotcha. And the electronic link, the letter pops up. The loan request is $460,000 at 1% interest rate. It, like Ben noted, doesn't apply unless they get selected through the competitive tax credit program. So the applicant here is Madison Cove LLC. It's an affiliated entity. They've got projects across the state and country, but the closest one is in Ormond. So they have a project there. There's a design packet, and I did also email this to all the commissioners last week, that shows the architecture and site layout that's proposed. The project is 80 to 84 units of senior restricted housing, 55 and up, at that 60% AMI or below, with 10% at 40% or below. The property is zoned for the use. We set that up a few years ago, and they have been applying for the competitive tax credit system. So not the 4% by right tax credit, the higher 8% threshold from the Florida Housing Finance Corporation and the federal tax credit system, the LIHTC, Low Income Housing Tax Credit System.
Jessica, if I can, I think it was the condition of approval last time that the building would look the way it was presented to the commission.
Yes, and it.
And do you have an illustration that you can share for Commissioner Ferris? So,
of course.
Since she didn't have that available to her and wasn't here for the project.
Yeah, I'd say it's proposed for around 7 stories, I believe. What I just handed to Commissioner Paris and what was in the packet last year and the years before shows the typical architecture for these projects. If you'll remember, they always include a mural element on the buildings, and we can coordinate with the city on what that mural portrays with different elements to create kind of an artistic element as well for the project.
So, and just for the benefit of all of the commissioners, receiving the low-income housing tax credits from Florida Housing Finance Corporation, it gives the city assurances that the building is actually going to be developed and maintained and operated consistent with all of the commitments that Ms. Gow was talking about. Low income and actually extremely and very low income in this instance for a period of
50 years. So normally when we make requests, we see around 15, 30% is the live local term. This one is 50. Yeah.
I get excited about these types of opportunities.
We still have to go into larger. Let's just
still get, I've been getting excited every year. Every time they come up, I get excited.
So what would happen if you approve the motion and if the project is awarded the tax credits, there would be a loan, an actual loan agreement that would come back for commission approval consistent with these terms.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to be able to research this a little bit more, not after 5 minutes of.
Okay, we understand. We respect that. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
There's somebody raising their hand who would like to comment.
If you want to speak on the item, we'll take public comment at this time. Just come up and fill out your paper. Doyle. Just,
See, I think he got it.
we'll let you.
Yeah, it's
Quick
okay.
hitter.
All right.
We know who he is.
Go ahead, Brother Lewis.
Doyle Lewis, Daytona Beach tonight, United States. I have a question on this project because the paper I just picked up outside in the entrance has a safe place opens for homeless seniors 62. What's the definition of a senior? And is this just a project, they say seniors for 65, or can it be for 62 also? Some places actually say seniors are 55. So there's 3 or 4 different people who say seniors are 55, seniors are 62, seniors are 65, or sometimes the federal government says what they got to work till they're 70 now, so you can't be a senior until they're 70. I just want a definition on that, on this particular project. And if this is the location next to the mobile home park, that is on Madison and Beach Street, I think. That's not Blue Road. So let's get that straight also, because that's a big difference. Blue Road is down where this flood is, and sometimes those trailers up there off of Beach Street and towards US 1 flood too. I know the area too. So that's just what I wanted to ask about this particular project. Thank you.
Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. I want to speak in favor of the project. It is really, really needed, for starters. Second, is a beautiful property and a beautiful project that they're proposing to put on it. Third, they're working with a very competent developer who's able to make this happen if they get the low-income housing tax credits. And if they don't get our backing, the low-income housing tax credits are not going to come through because every other city will be making that commitment. If we're not, we will not be competitive. So I would encourage you to vote in favor of this. It's something we need. It's something done well. There's no reason to vote against it.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. Sandy basically said everything that I needed to say. I just wanted to add my voice to that. It is a great project, and I don't see a reason to vote no on it. They brought it forth last year. It was sad they didn't get it. Last year, I think there was a competitive project, too. Weren't there 2 projects? And we got neither one. So it's really an opportunity here, and I hate to see it be wasted by not approving this tonight. Thank you.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview. I was in favor of this project the last time and the time before. The mayor just put a red flag up when he said it's for the extremely, extremely low income. It's not the 40 and 60% that had been in the past. So are we going for HUD housing now in that area? Because at one point we wanted to redevelop that section, you know, the root canal with townhouses and boats and the whole 9 yards. The HUD housing doesn't fit in with upper end. If you're going to redevelop for people with yachts and townhouses and things of that nature, it's a mix and match. I'm not quite sure if we're going for the extremely, extremely low that the mayor's referring to, or the 60, 80% that Jessica is talking about.
John, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
What did I say? Going for the extremely low? I said that?
Well, she said 10% of AMI.
She said the AMI. I didn't mention AMI.
60 and 40% AMI.
I didn't mention it. I didn't mention AMI. You're not hearing.
And I think I used the terms extremely and very low.
I didn't use those terms.
Right.
So where's the apology there? I don't want to hear that. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other speakers? Happy to hear from you. Okay. We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote at this time. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Thank you. Keep up the good work. That's good work right there. Thank you. Before we hear from the residents, I did forget to mention that First Step Shelter, unfortunately, was in the news this week. And when we have great news, I'm not afraid to come in and share that. Unfortunately, we do have a situation that it is not healthy for me to go into much discussion on, because it is a situation involving a whistleblower, and have been advised by our attorney really not to talk very much about it. But I will say this, that when you are working in the nonprofit world or the business world, you will sometimes experience things that are not positive. And you will sometimes have people who work in an institution who do things that they should not do. That's just a part of the world that we live in. It's never a good time when it is a nonprofit that is always teetering on the brink of falling apart based on financing. So it's not a good time, but it is what it is. And we as a board are going to continue to do our level best to address it in a forthright and transparent and efficient and effective manner to be able to keep the shelter thriving. As we know, it has done amazing work and had amazing success. But as I said last week, that no one individual is responsible for the success of the shelter. That includes the executive director, and it includes me and the board and all who work at the shelter. And it's a collective endeavor that will survive if we are determined to make sure that it survives no matter what happens going through this process. So let's keep our commitment, and we'll continue to work diligently to make sure that we address the issues that are confronting the shelter in a forthright manner. At this time, we will hear from our residents.
Okay. Our first speaker is Ray, and on deck is John Nicholson. I know.
See. Hello? Hello. My name's Ray. Do you know the movie Field of Dreams? Dyersville, Iowa, that's my hometown. Build it, they will come. And I used to work for the city for 10 years ago before I broke my neck. And I worked on the boardwalk, I worked on this whole city, and I know a few things. And I've been asking for 10 years when people like me are going to get sidewalks on the US 1. They're only 70 years old. I mean, I have to ride on the US 1, and that's like a washboard itself. I can't ride on the sidewalks. They're that bad. Oh, it's the state thing. It's a state thing. Come on, you guys got to advocate for it. It's the most one of the most dangerous spots from Maine to the Keys is Daytona Beach. Yet, 70 years old, we can't get sidewalks? And another thing, I worked on the boardwalk, and you guys talking about how we can get promote Daytona. The elephant in the room is, when are we going to bring back the parking and driving, the heart of Daytona, the Golden Goose, parking and driving by the boardwalk. At least give us from the clock tower to ISB. It's ridiculous. The dumbest thing in American history was taking away the Golden Goose of Daytona Beach. And they decimated the boardwalk. There's nothing to do. We're an hour away from Orlando, destination number 1 in the world for tourists, yet they don't want to come here because there's nothing to do. I say with that $11 million, you build the greatest skateboard park and surf shop right there for lessons, contests, etc. I don't just want to criticize, but good Lord, we need to start investing in the beach side besides, the other part of town that got new sidewalks, streets, recreational centers. Should I go on for the last 10 years? It's getting ridiculous. Why don't we invest in bringing these tourists from Orlando, around the world, to Daytona Beach? Give them something to come here. Bring back that parking and driving. It's ridiculous. It's got to be the dumbest thing anyone has ever done in the history of Daytona Beach. There. I mean, let's bring a reason for these people to come and bring back that parking and driving, the Golden Goose. Close your eyes. Think back in the 80s. How many people were parked right there spending money on the boardwalk? It's ridiculous that in the last 30 years, no one has got together with the county and figured it out. It's like, that's all I got to say. Have a great day. Right? Am I right? When are you going to bring back the parking and driving where it's needed the most?
Thank you,
Mayor.
Ridiculous.
The county controls that. But we can say something to the county that you're asking for that. And on Ridgewood, the sidewalks is controlled by DOT, and I'll make sure.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Allison DeLauder.
Well, we don't control it.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. That topic came up at the county council. People forget the boardwalk is not what it used to be. So that draw that everybody is expecting to drive to that location for no reason whatsoever, I doubt we will have the same number of people going to the area in front of the boardwalk that we had in the past. So that and the fact that we may lose our ability to drive anywhere on our beaches in Volusia County, it's tempting, but we would rather not risk losing all driving on the beach. Secondly, the charter review, what came up during that meeting, one of the things that was noticed was that on each annexation, we are supposed to look at redistricting, rezoning. I've been here 40 years, and we have never, ever looked at redistricting after we annex. It's never been mentioned. Especially now, we should look at the redistricting. I know the mayor keeps saying we're at 70,000 people, et cetera, et cetera. We're not. We're at 80, we'll be 85,000 at the time of the election. We will be that high a number. The difference between what we redistricted at 70,000 and the actual number of people when we vote will be at 85, that's 15,000 difference, most of which are voting people in Margaritaville. With regard to parking in the new developments, if you'll remember 4 years ago, one of the commissioners brought forth ADUs, and she was not concerned at all about the additional parking. So we would add additional ADU, could be as many as a couple living in the ADU. That would put at least possible 4, maybe 5 cars in the CRA areas, the old parts of town. All right? It has to be looked at all over. It's not just, it's all kinds of things. When you look at something, you have to look at parking. And lastly, I've been pushing the county to look at the cities, to look at the school board. I don't think we understand the people that back us in this city. We have some fantastic people. Hyatt and C.C. Brown, the $37 million that they gave us, plus the museum, the Lomans at our hospital for diabetes. Glenn Ritchie stepped in. He's fantastic. Lisa Kennedy with the One Daytona. We have fantastic people contributing. Maury Hosseini was a prime mover on Boeing and some other things. I'm sorry, Jim France, very quiet. We have some very fantastic people in the city. Thank you.
I need you to stop saying what I say. Please. I did not say that. It's annoying me. I did not.
Our next speaker is Allison DeLauder, and on deck is Tyler Curry.
My name is Allison DeLauder, and I have a storefront here in Daytona Beach at 639 North Beach Street in Daytona Beach. And I would like to start off with, hello, my name is Allison DeLauder. I'm a small business owner located here in Daytona Beach, also known as Empress Exotics Beauty Bar. Previous donor to many local nonprofit organizations such as Fashion Week on the Beach, Juneteenth yearly fashion shows, to feeding the homeless at my new storefront. As for being a female African-American minority growing up with so many odds stacked against me, as I always knew I wanted to make a difference and had a voice that should be heard. Who knew on June 6, 2024, I would find my voice of being heard that day I woke up to do my once everyday morning routine, which starts off with a trip to grab coffee from Java Junction, now headed towards my store as I began prepping to do a grand opening this month. I almost met my demise. Taking my everyday route this day wasn't unusual, as the police on Ridgewood was normal, but an officer following me for blocks with no sirens wasn't. Knowing how unruly Daytona police can be, as I lost my youngest uncle at the age of 19 to the same police department in 2019, growing up knowing you don't pull a gun unless you have intents on killing came to me as a shock. I just knew I was now at my store and safe on my property. But I wasn't. As I attempted to back in my parking spot, I looked up to a gun. No sirens, no noise, just a gun pointing to my head. At that point, all I knew was I was innocent and my constitutional rights were violated. In the blink of an eye, there was 4 to 5 more guns at me as I was now on my knees with my hands up, to be deprived of everything, even after found innocent, to still search and tow my car because I wouldn't give my consent with no apology, no thorough investigation or explanation, is what I call direct insult from Daytona Beach city officials. To see the incident report has what you may call disparaging remarks of false statements should be the same for the police. I have now suffered from PTSD and is now given meds to cope with life due to the police misconduct, and I'm now a victim to police brutality. To not hear from the city officials like the mayor or the chief is why I'm here today. What happened to national crime victims' rights you talked about in 2022? Where is the protection for the citizens who are harmed by the police when they shoot and kill? Where is mental help, paid leave, and apology to feel so hopeless with so many superiors who take an oath to serve and protect their own, but to be the same ones to laugh and ridicule the innocent is why police need better training. I shouldn't be held at gunpoint by 4 to 5 government officials who obviously failed to recognize make and models of cars, as I had an Acura and they were looking for a Kia Forte with a male suspect and now a Hyundai. For the chief to forego a meeting with me this Monday after having me wait over a week over your officer's negligence with your knowledge for an apology, not at least an apology via phone call, shows the city of Daytona Beach rather target its residents and exploit them on live PD for financial gain than to help serve and protect residents, let alone business owners. Are we paying taxes for them to commit fake traffic stops and let the crimes run free and detain the innocent? I recommend holding the police accountable for their actions, not just their job description, just as you do to the citizens. We have rights. How am I, a business owner, supposed to feel safe and thrive if I can't trust the police department? It's already hard enough trying to survive in this city with any business year-round with inflation. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Our next speaker is Tyler Curry, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
Oh, thank you for taking this opportunity for me to come up here. I want to take the next 3 minutes here just to actually say thank you to everybody up here, specifically Derek Henry, the mayor, and Juanita May. We work closely together. I just want to make sure everybody understands that Daytona Lagoon is here for everybody, and we want to work with the city as much as possible. And if you guys need anything, feel free to get with us. One big thing we just got done during spring break is we did the Volusia County, which included here, reading program for the schools. Last year they had about 300 kids complete a lower amount of reading. Well, this year they did 1,500, and in all of Volusia County. So that was way bigger than I thought, but that's okay. I'm happy with it. Each one of those kids, because we were worried about some being low income, got 2 tickets. That way they have parents could come too. They didn't have to worry about that. And we're real excited to continue working with the county as well as you guys. So if there's anybody here who needs anything, if we can be there to support, we're here for you guys. I do want to thank you guys for your continued growth. Beach Street has been looking amazing down there. I do, like the gentleman said, I do hope that we can continue that growth, which I know we are planning going on to the beach side. We have a lot of open areas and attractions that hopefully we can get more stuff out there. The rising tides raise all ships philosophy, more attractions and stuff like that. But I just want to say thank you for everything you guys have done, and we are here to help support the city in any way. Thank you.
So before you go, Mr. Tyler, a few years back, there was a resident who lived directly behind you, and the woman was ill with cancer, and it was deteriorating. And part of it was she couldn't get any rest because she's right by the water park. So we went back and forth with Code, with Captain Lee, and with Tyler, and they actually tried a number of different ways to reduce the noise so she could actually rest because of the music. And they would have music all the time when they weren't necessarily open, and they adjusted their hours to accommodate. And I will tell you, I ran into her a while ago. She looks fantastic. I saw her at an organic store, and she was so grateful and thankful that you had taken the time to make those accommodations for her so she could rest. So thank you. That's a true story. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're here to support everybody. So thank you, guys.
Okay.
Mayor, just to talk about what the young lady said, I do think that we need to have a conversation about live PD. And I know we agreed to it. I agreed to it. But I always think about when you're having encounter with the police department, it's sometimes one of the lowest points for you. It can be an intimidating experience, no matter how kind the officer, no matter how nurturing the officer may be. It can be an intimidating experience, and I don't know if that's right for our residents. I don't know if that's the best thing for them to have to be plastered all over TV, live TV, and then they go and they're proven innocent, and nobody ever knows that they were proven innocent, that they didn't do what they were charged of doing, because it doesn't come back on live TV that on January 27th, Mary Beth was proven innocent. All you know from then on is she was on live TV and they were arresting her. And I just don't know that that's the best we can do for our citizens. I don't know. I don't believe that that's the best we can do for them. I believe we can do better, and I think we can treat them with better dignity when they're having encounters with the police. We don't need live TV. And I think that's a conversation coming forward that we really need to have. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
Just to piggyback, I'm willing to have that conversation, because I don't know that we ever really had a real conversation about it. And I don't know the impact of it. I've never watched it, but I have heard people tell me that they didn't like it. I have heard residents say to me or send me emails or correspondence to say that they don't like it. And so if our people don't like it, then it's reason enough for me to consider it. And your point about it not being what's best for our residents is what I'm most interested in discussing. So I look forward to that. Yes, sir.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. I I'm going to amend my remarks by starting with what's going on at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Dr. Butler is probably the biggest driver on why all this is happening. The fact that we now have a large business coming here, and hopefully, as the mayor did say, one of many to come, we hope. And you said, I listened. And so, you know, I see this the start of something big. But I will say this, for those of you who know Dr. Butler's background, came from the University of Iowa, he's big on alternative energy. He started a wind program there. It's a website, I believe, is IA Wind. And you can read about some of the stuff he did. And I know I've mentioned this in the past about partnering with our local universities to try and help some of the issues here in town, such as flooding, energy use, etc. And I would certainly look forward to the city getting more on board with Dr. Butler and what's going on at Embry-Riddle. What I wanted to talk about as well is Zone 1 parks, which we don't officially have any parks in Zone 1, which is a substantial part of the city. Now, I fought for over 2.5 years to get back the public land that was our river access, the only river access, I might add, on Beachside at Bridgeport Heights. Sadly, other than putting up a sign, nothing else has been done. I have requested numerous times to try and get fencing up there because the landowner on the north side has overrun the boundaries and continues to use it as their personal parking lot. They also have an untethered attack dog, which is quite dangerous. They're not complying with the city rules. That's why we need a fence. We also need some landscaping done there to make it a viable park. The other area that I brought up numerous times at the Parks and Recreation meeting is the property that the city owns and is sitting abandoned at 2010 South Peninsula. I know, Mr. Mayor, when you visited Bridgeport Heights, we talked about looking for other potential sites. That is certainly one. It's almost 2 acres of land. Sadly, the owner of the property on the south side has overrun his boundaries and chosen to cut down trees from the city property, which is not being cared for. I would certainly like to see a proactive stance to get that done. The area in Zone 1, we've lost our tennis courts here. We've lost, well, we only have one volleyball court, so we have very little to do in Zone 1. I would certainly like to see the city take a more proactive stance on the Parks and Rec in Zone 1. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Doyle Lewis, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Doyle Lewis. I came here for one reason only, but now I'm speaking on two things. The paper yesterday, I seen it after I got off of doing some work. The First Step Shelter has been doing great things, no matter what the paper says. The homeless situation in Volusia County, Flagler County, and the area in DeLand, Bunnell, is a situation that's always been a situation like what just hit the paper yesterday. This isn't nothing new. They're just printing it to bring it to the surface again, which is going to make it great. There's always going to be somebody in the medical field or in counseling that's going to get burnt out. It usually happens between 1.5 years and 3 to 4 years. Some people's personalities can take the pressure, some people cannot take the pressure. That's just what this is. It is a hot topic to help people in need. And I just think some of the people need to get off the oven, get off the stove. You're on a frying pan when you're taking care of people in need. That's the way it always has been with nurses and doctors. They have to move around and move on because some people that have mental issues are not well educated, will constantly fight. I've seen it in several situations with the veterans, with younger groups of people, with elderly people, especially dementia, forgetfulness. It happens. I support the First Step Shelter, or anybody that's going to help the First Step Shelter, and anybody that will help anybody that is 55 years or older that has worked hard in their life to have their funds for retirement. God bless the First Step Shelter, and I will stand behind it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's that part. Now the other part with the business owner. Starting off early in the morning, making it to her business. The police had no idea if it was a man or a woman in the car. But that's not the point. They should have used their sirens. They should have gave warning. I had the same thing happen, but not in this county, as a business owner. But it was later in the evening. I was working late. And one of the attack police officers was a dog, an officer. They sent it in first, inside my business. That's all I'll say about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Stacy Johnson.
Good evening, Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. I appreciated Fred Brown's comments about fuel and being eco-friendly and all that. We can still, for a while, certain types of fossil fuels are going to be around, and there's lots of things we can do to conserve them and stretch them. So if we purchase this, we can make it go a long way by various means of conservation. Commissioner Cantu, I hope the parking situation gets resolved. It seems to me like people just need to be able to park on the street as well. Like, it's not always realistic for a house's driveway to fit like 7 or 9 cars, and that's a lot, but people are going to have their cars. But it seems like we should try to be able to find street parking and not give people tickets. And I hope something will get figured out. Oh, here's some good news. East ISB. East ISB has that project that FDOT's been doing. There is finally safe passage once again for cyclists and pedestrians utilizing the bridge. Yay. Thank you. I want to talk about low-income residents. There is not necessarily a correlation between people's income and their value as citizens. It's not a correlation. People can be really good citizens, and they just happen to have a low-paying occupation. And it's also not bad. It's actually, I don't think it's very good to have large enclaves of wealth and like really super large enclaves of poverty. I think it's better if we're living amidst and around each other. Most of the great cities of the world have been organically grown on that model, and people interface and interact and do business with each other. And there may even be some of the cultural thing, like Mayor Henry mentioned, when you're interacting with different groups, it's good. And then speaking of cultural, that Philippines festival, I really want to go. I want to make it to that. It looks awesome. And I totally think we should have a multicultural thing. We have lots of cultures in this town. We have like a Persian culture. They haven't had a Persian festival for a long time, and that's a really big culture. And all over, there's all different cultures. We're very fortunate. Midtown Neighborhood Watch, there was a really cool guest speaker from the Howard Thurman House. The Howard Thurman House on Whitehall is going to be introducing a peace garden and a community garden, and maybe in the future a farmer's market. And Commissioner Reed's on the board of that, so that's exciting, good stuff. And happy Juneteenth, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Well, one of the issues with it's an issue of parking when your fire trucks can't get through the streets. So that's really what it comes down to.
Our next speaker is Stacy Johnson, and on deck is Roberto Di Nicola.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Ms. Johnson.
How you doing?
So I'm back again. I just wanted to say I was here 2 weeks ago on behalf of the Supersonics Youth Track Club, and I'm here again as the mouthpiece for our youth. So just to let you know, we've worked diligently fundraising for expenses for regionals and Junior Olympics. So we're now 4,000 short of our regional goal. So we're asking if the city would be willing to donate to our youth team to help us reach our goal. I know that the regionals does take place starting tomorrow up until Sunday, and then 3 to 4 weeks later, we do have Junior Olympics. So if I've sent emails to all of the different commissioners, the city officials. So if that's something that you all are able to do, we would greatly appreciate it. I also just was wondering, have you all ever thought about a community track? Just considering it, since the city was a part of the youth track and field program until they dropped them back in 2016. So I didn't know if that was something in the works, or if you ever thought about building a track here. I know you have like the different football fields, tennis courts, and different things. Just was wondering, throwing it out there, because we're paying monthly to Volusia County School Board to use their track facility. It's not free, they're not donating it. So just if that was something that would be considered for the kids, since we do have 2 track teams here now for the youth, AAU track teams, I think that that would be something to look into. Know it's very expensive, don't know about the funds, don't know how that works for the city, but it was just something to throw out there that I was wondering if that was something that was ever considered or in the makings. Also, I seen the Philippine festival that you just advertised. So I was interested in it, looked very interesting. I'm very greedy, so I seen the food. So I was just wondering, how did y'all advertise it? Because I knew nothing about it. I also did the Juneteenth. It was very nice this year. I actually was out there with the stand with someone else. So I just wanted to say thank y'all for that. And then I also want to apologize for whatever happened to you. You know, my heart goes out to you for whatever happened, and I hope everything works out for you. But I just want to know how that worked for you. Like, how did we?
That event was not a city function. That was a city-supported function. We gave them some money for it, but they advertised that on their own. So as you know, most nonprofits, they don't have money for marketing at all. So, I mean, we talk about it here. They do word of mouth. They tell their own community. But the Filipino community has a large, diverse diaspora of people from all over. And they're in the U.S., and they're marrying Americans, and they're having kids. And it's just a completely mixed population. It's just fantastic. The $10 fee was great for the food and the entertainment.
So
what's the name of your track club?
Florida East Coast Supersonics.
You've been around for a while.
Yes, it used to be Daytona Beach Supersonics. They've been around since 1990.
Where do you train?
We train at Atlantic High School and at Embry-Riddle.
Okay. And then, Mr. May, you might like this. Do you have a senior team at all? And by senior team, I mean a group of people who are over the age of 50 who compete.
No, ma'am.
So
Ages
17
5 to 18.
only?
Yes, ma'am.
It's too bad, because there's a 13.6-second 100-meter dash by a 70-year-old man, and there are categories for 85-year-olds, and the oldest sprinter is 108.
Well, we actually had, didn't mean to cut you off, we actually had some of the seniors, we hosted a track meet at Spruce Creek High School this year in April, and we actually had some of the seniors that actually came and participated in our track meet, because it's open to masters as well, so it was ages 55 older, so we did have some of the older ones.
How many showed up? How many showed up?
It was 4 of them.
So I think about, we're always talking about the Mayor's Fitness Challenge and how we can continue the activity year long. And I came across the senior games, and I was fascinated. I can imagine you and Mr. Facher running down the track, doing a 50 or 100-yard race, maybe a 400, maybe a 200, maybe something like that. I feel like the two of you could train really hard for this on a track. I think it would be great.
Yeah.
I beat Mr. VH running backwards.
So how long, how long is the Mayor Fitness Challenge for?
10 weeks.
10 weeks. Is it something that can be incorporated, like something for the track? Like next year?
Not really.
Not really.
To do something like on the track?
For us to do something on the track?
Yeah, like for the community, for the track. What she's saying, that's what she's saying. She's trying to see if part of the fitness is something for you all to run down the track.
Because they're already training, so people could easily train with them.
Yeah, right.
Well, I was just wondering how was that advertised, but that's what you were saying. You were saying you wanted to be part of the city.
Also, Miss Stacy, we do have a track. It's in the master plan for Derbyshire. As we continue moving towards our goals in the master plan, I'll keep you informed. But we do have that in the goal for Derbyshire, a track.
And
Also, the coaches, y'all do have a coaches team, though. You don't have a older people team, but you do have the coaches team, and I've seen that coaches team, and they are super, super fast for the coaches. So, and they're older coaches too. They're not young coaches.
Right.
So, if anybody is willing to help support the Supersonics get to regionals, they've asked me to help get them to nationals. But if anybody's willing to give anything to help those young people get to regionals, we would definitely appreciate it from the Derbyshire community and all communities, because they come from all the communities.
Ms. Johnson, you received $1,500 tonight. I don't know if you know that. I gave 1,000 and the mayor gave 500.
Yes, ma'am.
For sure.
Agenda.
The agenda?
Mhm.
So that still leaves her 2,500 short. But I don't know what mine went to. I just went to Supersonics. I don't know if it's national, regional. I don't care. Just give it to the babies.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, our next speaker is Roberto De Nicola, and on deck is Quentin Radcliffe.
Good evening, Roberto De Nicolo, 2020 South Peninsula. I'm here for the same thing, tennis courts, as usual. Many people, hundreds of people are playing tennis, and they can't play tennis, play volleyball, and they only have one court. And it would be great to somehow fix the downtown core of Daytona Beach with clay courts and a little bit more volleyball courts. So we put together a petition last year with 250 signatures, but I'm here today to really ask the mayor, is there a particular avenue that we need to follow for success or hope for success?
I can't give you an avenue to ensure, but I will say that I think we're all in favor of replacing the tennis courts as they exist. We don't intend for there not to be tennis courts available, so we expect something that would be at least a replacement for what is there now.
Okay. So we're
But
hoping
in terms
that-
of, in terms of our support of clay courts, I don't see that transpiring personally. It's just too expensive, but that's my perspective. But I don't expect anything less than what we have now.
I've just sent, just in the last couple of days, an email with alternatives. Instead of everything being done at City Island like it was, it would be a split between Schnebley's and City Island. Well, thank you very much for listening to me.
He did, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to put $500 towards Coach Stacy's endeavor.
Okay, Supersonics,
That also.
okay.
And are these our bike week or your bike week?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can, was there a bike week resolution tonight and an ARPA resolution? Yes. Okay, motion to add those contributions to those respective resolutions?
You move. So moved. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions? We have to take public comment.
Is there any public comment on
No,
that?
not yet.
Just on
this item.
on this donation.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Okay.
Sorry?
Yes,
So how much was that, 500?
$1,000.
$1,000,
Yeah,
$1,500, $1,000,
That's
$2,500.
2,500 tonight.
So our next speaker is Quentin Radcliffe, and on deck is Ann Rubin.
Yes, you did.
Hello, everybody. Let me apologize for the way I'm dressed. I was in the yard all day and found out last minute, and I had to be here. This is my first meeting, but I've been determined to be a part of this. First of all, I hear everybody, and I'm one for the B side. Oh, I'm sorry. I own a couple properties I own 247 Fulton Street and the property right next to it.
And your name?
My name is Quentin Radcliffe.
Okay.
I'm originally from the Miami area. I came here contracting. I brought my kids when they were like 5 or 6, attended Terra T, Campbell, Spruce Creek. Now they're in the Army. So I'm home alone now. I'm a homebody dad now. So go to the Crunch gym a little bit, So, you know, and I be at home. I went to Daytona State. I took the HVC program as an old man too. So now I'm going bike to Daytona State for the fall semester to take Spanish to get my A in Spanish. Yo hablo español ahora, pero no bien, not bien. Pero ahora yo hablo. So, quiere hablo conmigo? Hablo. So I talk a little bit here and there. So with that being said, all right, I hear everybody talking about the B-side, and I'm one for the B-side. But like I said, I'm for my community. I live right off what they call the Ave. So, and what's going on is a different standard. What's happening is when events and things happen, I see the big advertisement, the big publicities of what happens, and the length of it. When an event happens on the Ave or on the beach side, or on the avenue in that area, the length of it and the standards are completely different. They're held to a box, the vendors, or they're held to hours being cut short, or they're held to the city saying they can't do, you know, it's different standards from what I see on the B side to what I see there. That's one thing that I, and then they just had the Juneteenth parade that just happened just recently. It was nice, and everybody ended up out there on the park. But the turnout, nobody knew it. Nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about that on the avenue though. Maybe on the other Juneteenth parts, but on the avenue, a lot of the residents were like, what's going on? They didn't know. Okay. So how my area is being looked at, I guess, as being drug infested. It's being looked at as being, I'm for the youth. I'm for the youth, and that's what's coming up next. So I advocate for the bike ride. I ride bikes. I ride bikes. I ride dirt bikes. I advocate for it. And these guys have been trying to put something together with the city to bring revenue. I mean, because these guys come to spend, but advocate a designated area, designated time, allow something to happen to where that would, I mean, show these younger guys that, hey, the police and everybody ain't against you guys. Okay, so here's with the police. Here's my take with the Daytona Beach Police. These guys are operating off what you call subjective analysis. That's what they hold. They're not using objective analysis. They hold citizens to objective analysis, but they're operating off subjective analysis. That means they're allowed to just willy-nilly say what they want and it flies. Okay, recently, I walked into the Daytona Beach.
You got to finish your thought because your time is up.
Okay, I walked into the Daytona Beach recently, into the Daytona Beach Police Station to write a complaint. I spoke with a Lieutenant Wilden. And the Lieutenant told me that he knows me from coming to the Daytona Beach Police Station, writing frivolous complaints, and he don't have time for it. And this was done in the Daytona Beach lobby. I mean, on full microphone, on full. I asked the lieutenant. I said, "Well, it showed what happened to the other complaints and that I've submitted, and I didn't receive a reply on. So if this lieutenant is taking in any of the complaints,
your time's up. Okay, I got you, though. We heard you. Just next time, stay on the point, 'cause you had a lot there.
Okay, our final speaker tonight is Ann Ruby.
Hi, Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I would hope that you're allowed to also consider charter amendments that are not in the list that was given.
That's what I,
And,
definitely.
yeah, what? I'm sorry?
We are.
Yeah, so one I would like to suggest, which occurred to me, just recently, is that in order to be elected in a city commission zone, you have to, in order to run, you have to be a resident of the zone 6 months prior to qualifying date.
What is it now?
That's, what?
What is?
That is the rule.
Okay,
But-
yes.
But
I thought-
but there's an and that follows that.
Okay.
And you have to be a registered elector, an elector in the city, so you have to be registered to vote. But you can be registered to vote, I believe, in any zone in the city. So,
No.
So the current rule is you have to be a resident of the zone for the prior 6 months and a registered elector of the city, not the zone.
not the zone,
Right.
correct, that's what I'm saying. And I think that the charter should be amended so that you need to also be a registered elector of the zone for 6 months. Because how, you're running, it just makes sense to have those two mesh up. So I would hope that you can add that to your consideration. And I think you might need to instruct staff to consider that if you want to consider it. But it occurred to me that would be kind of a useful thing to do, make them mesh and make them sync.
That makes sense to me.
Thank you.
On paper, I thought it was kind of the same. Okay, is that the
That's our
last
final
speaker?
speaker.
All right. Good night.
You have something?
Who?
Okay.
Who has something? Someone has something?
No, for me.
Okay. Be great, Daytona Beach.
Yeah.